an extraordinary individual, born of the royal family of Japan, and became a television producer, where she took up the idea of doing that and interviewed literally the leadership of the world in a series called Following the Sun. The programs were aired in public television in the 70s and in Japan, and she has met literally the leadership of the world, as we say. She was in New York in the spring of 1995, and we were able to do, through the good graces and offices of the Japan Society, an interview with her, and to explain to us her extraordinary career and association with the world leadership and doing television production and the importance of that to the world now. So we were happy to greet her there on this segment of Conversations. And again, Kaoru Nakamaru, citizen extraordinaire, Japanese television producer and political critic at the Japan Society, spring 1995. Welcome very, very much to Conversations, where we're pleased to welcome to the program Kaoru Nakamaru, who is Japanese and has an extremely interesting background and has been involved with television production with a wide variety of people here in this in these latter years of the 20th century. She has a message of great import to bring in terms of the forward progress of the human spirit. And Kaoru, welcome very, very much to New York City and to Conversations. I wonder if we want to talk here, maybe you could share with us your own background. We want to share with the American people your own unique background and your contributions, but I wonder if you could maybe begin your Japanese, and maybe you could begin with your own background, and then we could talk about this incredibly exciting and philosophically relevant life that you've been leading.
Well, because of my father's involvement helping Sun Yat-sen movement in China, I was brought up at some time. Perhaps you've seen The Last Emperor in that Forbidden Castle. There I spent some time during my childhood. Then after basic education in Japan, I came to Barnard College, then Columbia University Graduate School. So that's how my educational background was.
And you would have come to Barnard then in what? About what time? That would have been?
Yes, 1960s.
I see.
Yes.
It was a very feisty time in the world.
Yes, I think so.
And you came and you studied political science, if
political
I understand
science,
correctly.
yes, it is.
Even though you did have then, at that time, if I'm not mistaken, spiritual concerns and concerns of a large nature in terms of understanding the human condition, you chose to study political science and political economy.
Yes, because that is something so important. I mean, in this time of world, without really understanding those background, I think it is very difficult. I was always interested in to become political critic on international affairs, and of course, spiritual basis is very important. I was always interested in the renaissance of the human spirit. So this is the both I thought you can carry out, and somehow that was the beginning, of my interest.
And you did, and then you came in contact with a number of people. If I'm not mistaken, you wrote a book that became very influential. You mentioned to me about opening to America and China and
diplomacy with U.S. and the diplomacy with China. That was a time in the late 1960s. Was very much of a turmoil. Then China was not in the UN yet, and so that was my first book as a political critic. And for that reception, surprisingly enough, all these 100 ambassadors who stationed in Japan then came, and 1,000 Japanese establishment came to the Imperial Hotel. And that is how people thought maybe I should start television.
Oh, I see.
So
right.
that was, yes.
Yeah, so many of the people in Japan came at the launching of that book, and then some of those people from, as you say, the establishment in Japan and people that were in prominent positions came to you with the idea that with your personality and your knowledge that you might think about doing television programs.
Yes, and also having so many ambassadors, all the ambassadors came. That means if I would like to see the head of the states, usually you go through ambassadors, I suppose. So maybe that was the beginning of, their thought. And that's how I started. If I wanted to meet President Sadat, I just went to see Egyptian ambassador and convinced them that the whole planning, what the program would be like. It's sort of Renaissance type of image, that I carried. Yes.
And you realized then the importance of communication and the need there to be a bridging of a communications gap, and that television is a way that these messages and important perceptions of these people could be shared with a much wider audience.
Oh, yes.
And that continues to be the case. Right?
Yes, I think so. In writing, very limited, maybe 30,000 books or 100,000 books. Even if the most popular magazine you write in Japan, it's 1 million copies. But when you reach to television, through the television, it's like a 10 million or 30 million audience you just reach. And that was, I think this is something very new, opening, when you communicate intellectually too. Yes.
Right, and it also is a different kind of a communication if it's television than if it is print. If it is print, your way of perceiving it is different, or even if it's radio. If it's television, it's different. You get a much better understanding of the person that we're communicating with if we have the picture and the word.
Yes,
I think it's a different experience, and it's one that's in a certain sense closer to the reality if we were to meet that person.
Yes.
And these technologies are available to us now, which historically, of course, they have not been. But maybe you could share with us, if you could, you launched then what has to have been an incredibly exciting time where you traveled the world. You have written a book called, if I may say, Following the Sun. It's a biography or an autobiography. But you proceeded to, in a certain sense, follow the sun or go around the world, as it were, and interview an incredibly large array of the prominent people on the world scene. I wonder if you could share a little of that. It must have been very exciting, a very exciting enterprise. Maybe you could share a little bit of the television series Following the Sun.
Yes. Well, after studied political science and all this, then visit various countries. What I began to find out was that on the surface many things are different, but basically human nature, human spirit are the same, you see. So if there would be any peace, I had the feeling that is through the humanity, and that how come my concept of the world peace and one world concept is 1/10 of the people on this planet start having peace inside. Then automatically, the peace would come. So more or less the spiritual movement, I think I was aiming through this television, that is human happiness is only from within, but we have tendency to look for powers or glory or the money and all this pleasure outside, you see. But so long as we're doing, there will be no peace, I think, within. It's a very difficult thing. So, but instead of my saying that to television, I thought, why not in the late 20th century already who blossomed their career, or if it's power, something like king or president, if it's money, someone like Rockefeller or Rothschild. All these people I sort of picked. Then I made a list, start communicating with them, and usually these people start talking inside of their feeling very much. So this whole program I called Following the Sun. That is, I think we human beings, more or less deep in heart, wishing someday our heart become like sun, beyond any religion, beyond any color of the people, beyond any nationality. Sun is just giving love to everyone. In 1 second, 2 million tons of coal burning energy, sun is giving out. So I think that is some image, something close to God. If we talk in that sense, I thought that is the image, Renaissance, spiritual revival, spiritual Renaissance. This is something through this program I wanted to share.
And it's a sense of the need and the sense of the personal identification with that you had from the beginning. And yet, if I may, you did not go to theological seminary, or you did not study formally religion. You studied political science and political economy.
Mm-hmm.
And many of the interviews that you did were with people who were not openly in any event spiritual or religious leaders. They were the geopolitical and economic leaders of the world in a certain sense. It's interesting that you didn't see there's no contradiction to that. It was good for, maybe you could share that.
Yes, maybe because basically I had that kind of feeling. You see, Israel and the Arab world was fighting that time, and I could go both sides very freely, and both governments said, yes, please, and even King Hussein said, yes, you can go through this bridge to this, Israel. And both sides, it was very open, and I felt that is because I am open, totally open about these things. They felt very comfortable receiving me and all this. And that is, again, you raised about religious, theological discussion and all that. I feel all the religions throughout the world, what they are really looking for is basically the pureness of the spirit in front of God, and also peace inside in each heart, and happiness, and also hand in hand together to create better world. These are the basis of any religion. This is spirituality we cannot ignore. I think if there is a time to discuss on the spiritual, the religious issue, we should come back to the basic line of the spiritualism. This is the start line. I have a strong feeling of that now.
And you had that right from the beginning when you began this
yes.
This quest.
Yes.
And that gave you, in a certain sense, I don't know if the term is a meta position to world affairs. You didn't have an ideological line or a view of your own that you were pursuing, and that made it possible for you to speak from in a certain sense, spiritual neutral position and be mediator between strongly held political and economic views of some of the world leadership. Is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes. Religion is something, once you become institutionalized, it is very difficult. I think they have all kind of ideological battle, or theoretical argument. And just February, I was invited to Mount Abu of India, and there came 300 VIP from throughout the world, about 60 countries, I think, and many of them different religious group. Then I realized they were arguing instead of really becoming harmonious meeting, so much of ideological battle. Then I felt having meditation there, unless religious leaders of the world come together more harmoniously, there will be no world peace. You see, my interest was always from the beginning world peace and one world concept. So I realize from now on, not just the political leaders or leaders of other fields, I would include religious leaders too, and that's one of the reasons I'm here meeting all this Christianity group and Muslim group and some other, Jewish group and so forth, to arrange the new symposium to come in October. So
No,
yes.
that's something that's
Yes,
looking forward. I wonder if we could go back over this again. You've talked with, maybe we could, if you would, for the audience. You've talked with a wide. You mentioned a couple, Mr. Rockefeller, Mr. Rothschild, in business, but you've also talked with many of the political leaders of the world. King Fahd. Maybe you could take off some of the people and maybe give some of your own experiences of some of these people that you had done these programs with, Gerald, President Ford, and a number of those. I wonder if maybe you could just let the audience know, who may not have seen your series following the sun, know some of the people that you have had these programs with, and have, if I may say, continuing communication with, which is very important.
Yes, someone like King Hussein, almost over 30 years he's been king, and actually conducting political affairs as a head of the state. And so each time I meet him, he becomes more sort of humble, modest person, and seeing through something like a Gulf War, I strongly felt he's really working conscientiously according his own conscience, and he had a very difficult time that time because people couldn't understand what he was trying to do. But after that, when I met him, I think he just went through very difficult period, but he's grown more. I think he's really now determined for the road in a political field and world peace, and he was very eager to work with me for this. So I said to him, another 30 years we should work together for the world peace. You haven't done any of the mission, finished.
It is important that there be some people that can be a friendly level, and in a certain sense non-threatening level, to talk with these people who carry heavy responsibilities around the world.
Yes.
King Fahd of Saudi Arabia you've talked with, and Saddam Hussein you've talked with, and
but
Muammar Gaddafi you've talked with.
Can you imagine Gaddafi? This person asked me. He said after the TV thing was over, he said, "I'd like to speak to you alone," and he asked me, "Do you believe in God?" And he said, "Then do you believe the life after death? Do you believe that God will judge your conduct?" That's his question to me.
His spiritually inclined question.
Yes. So I said, yes, all of this. I believe that is why I'm here. I worry about you. If you are conducting all this terroristic action, what the Western media says in 45 countries, giving weapon or money or whatever, you are indirectly killing so many people, and it will all come back to you.
And what did he say?
Then I said, I looked at his eyes, very straight. I didn't take off my eyes. Then I said, "Are you really doing that?" Just looking at his eyes, and he could not bear my eye, and he started acting like a little child to mother. He was like this. "No, I'm not doing that." This way, and so I think his conscience a little bit felt. I think he was thinking he was doing sometime right thing when some weak people the people who are suppressed come to him asking for the help. By helping them, giving money or something, he thought it's helpful. He was doing something good. But I said, whatever blueprint you have, whatever idealistic idea you have, if the method is wrong, it is wrong. I said, by killing people and all this is not according to the law of the universe. It's totally wrong. It will come back to you. And it was very interesting conversation. He really took it seriously.
Surely anyone, I should think, would. It's a difficult thing. It's hard for normal citizens to understand the weight of responsibility. We just have had Robert McNamara, who was our Secretary of Defense during the Vietnam War. Has just written a revelatory book saying we were wrong. Very difficult for people to say. Or the question of, after all, King George III did call George Washington a terrorist. Yasser Arafat was called a terrorist right up until the day that the Nobel Committee voted him the Peace Prize.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit difficult. You, as a political scientist, would understand that these things are very often difficult in the real world to do. But these moral questions are transcendent in a certain sense, and it's not always as clear cut as we might think. You know, from a and the weight again of responsibility.
Yes.
You've also taught. You've formed, if I may, maybe you can help me out here, but it's the International Affairs Institute for World Peace.
Yes, yes.
And that's an organization that you have now, and you continue to work with that, and you have a wide variety of people who have lent their moral support and name to that,
Yes,
and all the way from, again, Mr. Rockefeller and Mr. Brzezinski and King Fahd to Norman Mailer. I mean, a wide variety of people who've lent themselves to that. Maybe you could talk a little about that if you could.
Yes, well, after I had every week basis of television thing, then second book published, and again 1,000 people came the same way. Then I began to start, there must be some spiritual things that I like to explore more. Then 1976 I had fantastic spiritual experience.
A personal experience.
Yes, that life is eternal and reincarnation is true through myself. And so that was the sign. You know, once you know that life is eternal and you never die, I mean, we are the spirit. You know, people don't become spirit after death. I realized we are the spirit, just wearing flesh and blood now. That is the soul conscious way of thinking, I think. Once you experience that, I thought I'd take off myself from the very busy life, you know, or sometimes I had to give 5 speeches in Japan and this and that. So I put myself from very, very busy life and start sort of cleansing my soul. This is all I can carry back to the other part of the world. So then I began to meeting all these people I met once, you know, including all the kings and so forth, and asking to join this non-profit foundation for world peace. And I was preparing all this, and then set up non-profit foundation for world peace in America. Then I was sort of, until the time spiritually I am ready, you know, I just thought I will prepare every possible way for the Renaissance, you know, again Renaissance to come. And I felt this is the time for that. And I've been making very new arrangement throughout the world. And
that, if I may, that this time, 1995, coming up to the millennium, is a particularly propitious or important time in terms of the broader evolution of human affairs, or for that matter, human affairs within a broader evolution of consciousness and universe. We may be coming to a new moment. Incredibly, unprecedentedly exciting and challenging.
Yes, I think we are living in the most exciting period now, particularly this coming 4 or 5 years. It's everything's so escalating, you know, many things are happening, because this is the transitional period from the materialistic outlook to the spiritualism. You see, 21st century is something of the spiritual awakening, and we have to work toward that. I think many things happening, and it's just like shaking, you know, the whole body to wake up. Like I think so many people are just so comfortably, you know, everyday life, nothing especially happening, and they thought they're very contented and so, forgetting that we are the spirit and when you lose the spiritual value, many things happens totally, you know, and like violence, and even in American family life or Japan family life, the children's violence and the divorcing and all sorts of, you know, things happening. So this is, I think it's very, very important period, and spiritual awakening is the only way we can have a more harmonious world. I think for that we need every possible effort to make international symposium, gathering spiritual the religious leaders together with the political leaders sometime, and seminars to awakening people, or more positive thinking or whatever. All kinds of way to arouse, I think, our spiritual renaissance.
To, in a certain sense, to understand in a comprehensive way this new condition that does exist and that poses such a challenge, into which other of our human perceptions can be seen. Science and technology is advancing very rapidly. Human nature, I'm not sure how much it has changed. We discover now that from physics, everything is energy, resonancy. We discover these things. We discover that all human beings are descended of a common root ancestry 200,000 years ago. In terms of biological evolution, we all have a common ancestry traced back to Africa. We find these commonalities, and you said earlier that human nature does not change. The technology and the extensions of our consciousness have perhaps changed through time and offers this new opportunity. I don't think biologically we have changed that much. Do you? Or does our relationship to the environment change and reveal a new kind of human nature that we were not aware of as the technological condition changes?
Well, I think science and technology and all these things has to be serving to enrich human soul, But what happened was we become the slave to the science or economic things and all this. It's the opposite way. I think spiritual value is the one. Whole purpose of this life coming here to this land is to enrich our soul, and also hand in hand together to create better world, more harmonious world. But I think we were becoming slave to the science in terms of, for example, this atomic energy and all this. We created so much that, by even destroying these things, it cost money, and the Soviet had to ask someone else to help to destroy.
Yes, right.
This is incredible things, you see, and their economy is totally sort of broken type. And this is so many ridiculous things happening in opposite way. So I think this is, again, that human being has to become, what it should be, why we are in this world, where did we come from, where are we going from here, what human being is. This is all the questions we have to ask ourselves. So what we accumulated all these nuclear weapons. 60 times you can bomb, you can destroy this earth.
Apparently.
One time is enough. What do you do 59 times of this tons and tons of accumulation of this atomic bomb?
And that's part of the signal that this is a time for qualitative transformation at a larger level, or a higher level of understanding that you see as the ultimate question of trying to get and fulfill human purpose and biological evolutionary purpose in this universe, that we're going to perhaps come into a new resonating relationship too, and that this is the really larger question by far. And I couldn't agree with you more. And there are many difficulties, but I really enjoy that. We want to pursue these things, if you would.
Yes.
And we'd ask you to stay tuned. We'll be coming back with more. Then it's your pleasure, and I thank you very much for that. We'll be coming back with more of this very interesting discussion. So stay tuned. We'll be coming right back. Thank you. Okay, fine.
I think you're used to talking in this theoretical time and ideological time, but I think we can, someone like myself is very fortunate that I experienced directly what this spirit means, what is human being. I think it's very important, instead of talking intellectually and theoretically and all this, you know, this having that background,
Yes,
intellectual,
indeed.
that's fine.
Indeed.
But I can, since I had the experience of all this, and that is why I could meet all these people. That is why I will be meeting more with these people and having symposiums. So I think it's a very direct way of saying it. It's very, very.
So that there was in a certain sense a spiritual guardian angels or something
Yes.
that helped, made it possible for you to be
Yes.
in the
And they
mundane
exist.
worldly plane in touch with so many of these people. It wasn't just happenstance or something. Huh?
Guardian angel exists. You see,
Yes.
this is a thing. They just keep on living in the spiritual world. They talk. They have the language. They have energy. They can come in. If your spirit is very well harmonized, they can come in and speak, and help you. You see, I've experienced it. So my conversation, you know, this when I meet people like movie people,
Yeah.
or when I meet someone like King and all this, my expression or even the tone of the voice is entirely different.
So.
Yes.
Mhm.
Then I realized each time some energies coming in and a different quality, different, you know, type.
Yeah.
It was very. Then I had this experience. You see, so I can explain to you all about that in
Well,
detail.
that's extremely interesting. It's extremely interesting. It also, and again, gives you, as we were speaking earlier, it gives you, in a certain sense, a meta, I don't want to say metaphysical, but a meta relationship to the mundane world in a way that makes it possible, again, I would reiterate, for you to be able to mediate, as it were, between
Yes.
various of these aspects and see things from a very comprehensive view of the evolution of cosmic consciousness itself. That's extremely important that we have a comprehensive view, and there's not enough, I would submit, either philosophically, intellectually, or intuitively or spiritually, of a sense of comprehensively considering the human condition, or the human condition within the broader development of biology on this third planet, or that within the broader development of the evolution of universal consciousness itself. Is there a purpose, in your view, an overall, overarching purpose to life on this planet, to human life on this planet? And if there is, do you have some idea from your meta perspective, as it were, then, what that purpose is in a collective way that involves all? Do you have the sense of there being a grounding purpose for our purpose here? There are many people who live existentially who feel that there's nothing more than a material reality and understanding that we can understand with our intellect, and they don't have a sense of overarching purpose. I wonder what your sense is.
Yes. When I had this spiritual experience, that all we can take back to the other world is just a soul, human soul. You see, whatever huge house you have, power, you have to remain everything on this earth, and freely. Spirit never dies. You see, this is a great things.
Truth.
Yes, truth, and that means. The whole purpose of coming to this Earth planet, is enrich our soul. If there is a tendency, very arrogant, being arrogant, or very lazy, many things which you know yourself. What are the weak area in terms of spiritual terms? So. To correct these areas, to enrich, that means to enrich our soul in a very well-rounded way, then the kind of people who understand each other in such a way, we hand in hand together to create better world. This is the mission of life. So the purpose of life is to enrich our soul. Mission of the life is to create a better world together with other people, hand in hand. So all the other things, whether you're king or prime minister or housewife or cameraman or journalist, you just choose the best way that you can learn this process. That is what my understanding is, the minute I understand that, I really put myself from this busy life and start cleansing my soul and all the weakness I start finding out, and I worked with that. And then spiritually, when you are ready, it is very interesting things happening. Then once you start feeling, well, this is the time, religious group of people, unless they have some peace among religious leaders, there will be no world peace. I like to do some international symposium. The minute I thought of that, it's just like information coming from universe, like so many people, so many things just happening, and being invited all this religious convention among Christianity. The next month is to India, and the next month to Europe. About different group, and this is so. What you think is very, very important in the lifetime, and I think first finding out oneself is very important.
That's all, very, very relevant and interesting in terms of the internal, the internal peace of mind that many people want to have. I wonder, is it possible for someone to have an internal sense of peace, or a sense of what has been called liberation, in a certain sense, if in the world the bulk of the human society does not have that sense of peace, or are not able to, perhaps because of material reality? They are oppressed. Is it possible to live in a world being liberated or at peace with oneself while the world is not? Or is there anything to be said for the concept of the bodhisattva in the Hindu tradition, which will not feel that liberation in its true embodiment until the whole of the human society, collectively, democratically, the whole of human society is in a certain sense able to realize the plane of liberation? One thing I'm worried about is selfishness or narcissism, narcissistic view of the world, where people concentrate only on their own selves and do not concern themselves with their fellow human beings, or ecologically with the broader pattern of biological evolution.
Yes, I think it's very important questions. You see, human being has two ancestors. That is what I learned. One is physical ancestors. The other is the spiritual ancestors. That means each human being has a different process when it comes to these spiritual ancestors. Some of the spirit had the opportunity of learning Jesus Christ's teaching, or Buddha's teaching, or Moses' teaching, or Muhammad teaching, and all this. Each process is different. So just because you and I can be moved or understood doesn't mean all the other people have the same feeling, you see. So that is why when I had spiritual experience, I put myself from this very busy life, then I concentrated to cleanse my soul, to have a very harmonious feeling, and to eliminating all the desire as a human being you can imagine, for power, for the money and pleasure or fame, whatever wishes that you desire you may have as a human being. You just make effort to eliminate that. Then have a very peaceful, just in front of God, to have a very pure soul, that I wanted to become transparent soul. And that's the only way you can start things. You can approach other people talking about the spiritualism. So without doing that, it is impossible when all the other people are very much oppressed and feeling depressed and so forth. Without cleansing your soul, just by talking about life is eternal and all this, it doesn't communicate. Everything is a vibration. I learned. Unless you become very harmonious, very fine vibration, it does not reach to the other people. So having that experience, I went to see Gaddafi, for example, you see. That is why he totally opened up his heart. And whatever I said to him, he just listened to, and that happened to many of these other world leaders too, you see. So to your question, I can say, whatever surrounding is, first, it's very important to have a self-establishment within yourself to have a very harmonious. You just have to take time. If you love yourself, you have to accept totally what you are as you are, then start cleansing soul as much as possible. Then approaching other family members or society or in the working place, you see. So long as you are blaming other people, nothing happens. I think you just have to change yourself totally. It's almost like a human revolution, cleansing and the total outlook changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a sense, you're saying it can't be done selfishly. It can't be done with self-centeredness.
No. Everything is cause and effect. That is the law of nature. It exists. So you cannot do other selfish things to the others because it will come back to you. So this total outlook become very, different.
If I may, what about the sense of concern, not with the self or for the benefit of the self, but that you have an abiding sense of selfishness for there to be achieved universal justice, so that you have an abiding sense of the concern of not yourself, but of others, and that you are not detached, but you are involved with the material world because of the plight of others, not yourself. Do you understand?
Yes, that
is there a role for that?
Well, I
think
role? Yes, that is a beautiful role. But again, whatever beautiful ideas you have, without your becoming very harmonious, you cannot reach very high. I mean, you cannot accomplish very much. You see, first, if you want to have such a role, it is very important to have a very, very harmonious soul, to cleanse your soul of whatever, eliminate all the human desire, selfishness, even this goal.
Even the selfishness for justice for others. You do not care about the justice for others.
That is a beautiful goal. That alone is a beautiful goal.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying, without having the other, the soul itself to be cleansed as much as possible,
mm-hmm.
you see.
Mm-hmm.
If you're full of anger, if you're full of hatred within yourself, then having such a beautiful goal, even if the goal is noble and all that, I don't think you can really accomplish much. You see, that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So first, it's always important to sort of eliminate all this. It's just like a cleaning the room,
That's right,
you just clean the big dust first, and then you just start finding small things. In the same way, I did cleansing my soul in such a way, looking into myself.
I think these are things that they used to talk about in Athens and in Pericles, and these are philosophical precepts that people have been very interested in. I'm very interested also in your sense, again, with your grounding in the mundane or the political economy world and so forth, and that, from a meta perspective that you've been able to have, some people wonder about the leadership of the world and whether or not there is if we have an appropriate leadership pattern. We have institutions we've inherited, nation state, various institutions, the World Bank, the United Nations. There are various institutions that we try to work with. Many people feel that, particularly in the media, and you and I both in our ways are involved with media, there's a broader media, that there is a secret agenda. There was just recently a poll made in the United States, and 99% of the people in the United States said they thought the news in the United States was slanted in order to hide a secret agenda. I wonder, what do you make of a figure like that there should be such distrust of the world as is presented through the media to the broad public? What does it say? And I wonder if there is anything like an agenda that some of our world leadership have that perhaps we're not aware of.
Yes, well, that theme came to my mind, and the more I meet the world leaders and more different countries I visited, I felt each time. So I was trying to find out really who is running the world. Mm-hmm. There must be sort of shadow government, and I finally found out totally what it was.
Really?
It is very shocking, and such a short time, I don't know how much I could speak.
I understand.
But it really exists. You see, even American presidency and all this, and many of this political decision and so forth, you can put it this way: in the multinational company boardroom, more or less decide, who the president should be and so on. And the media, in the Western media like England, France, America, the major media, yes, key station, TV station, big newspapers, and other agencies are 100% owned by them, the banks, and all this. So it's totally controlled thing. And so I've been finding, because for example, Gulf War, I visited both sides.
Yes.
Gaddafi's place you've been to, North Korea I've been to, and very recently, after North Korean President Kim, by watching my international symposium 1989, that so many country people came and so forth, and I had a press conference at the United Nations and so forth. By watching that far away, the North Korean ambassador came to my office. This is marvelous that you can do on your own like this. If you have something like that next time, would you involve us?
Yes.
That was their approach for the first time. I've never been to North Korea, although I've been 165 countries throughout the world. So last summer, when North Korea and South Korea decided to have a talk, all the media people went to South Korea, waiting for the July 25th meeting on Hammonten. Then North Korea suddenly said to me, Madam, you alone please come, as a peacemaker. No one else, just yourself we'd like to invite. So I went North Korea July 5th, and I was about to meet on the 11th to the President Kim exclusive interview and so forth, and he suddenly died on the 8th, and on the 9th, I was alone there, and all this media jumped on me. They interviewed me almost in Japan. One whole week I was in the news and so forth. And that time, outside media was saying North Korea is such and such, picturing such a horrible country and so forth. The minute I was in North Korea, I just couldn't believe this is the same North Korea that people are talking about.
You've been misrepresented.
Yes,
yes.
And so I became to, feel more and more of that, and many of the things are totally decided, and someone really manipulate the whole thing, and perhaps the greed becomes so huge, and that they can, maybe you can say Anglo-American monetary establishment.
Anglo-American monetary establishment.
Yes, that's
would be
in the form of multinational corporate. And
would we include also the Japanese?
No,
I mean the trilateral nations, not the Japanese.
Trilateral is bringing in, but Japan is not quite brought in yet. You see, Japan is very close to society.
Japan quickly emerges.
They're trying to get, but.
Japan quickly emerges as the world economic leader of the world.
But Japan is nothing in terms of who controls it. You see, Japan is manipulated, but not in the leadership at all. And the military-industrial complex is another one. I think your President Eisenhower, when he was leaving this country, presidency, he said, I worry about American future. Maybe military-industrial complex is something that this country has to worry, and that exactly is happened, I think. So these two are together, so many things happening, and
do you think it is possible? Do you think that it is possible that perhaps because of some sort of transformation, perhaps metaphysically understood, one possibility might be unbeknownst to us as we develop? We may be, for instance, with all of these curves, as you indicated, going exponentially up in this particular time in which we come to a birth of a new way of relating, that perhaps unbeknownst to us, the physical or conditions of the world have changed in a way that allows for us collectively as a whole society to operate in a manner that historically we've not been able to. James Joyce, the poet, did say, or had Daedalus say, history is a nightmare from which we're attempting to awaken. Do you think it's possible that we may be coming to a time where one possibility might be that we are overcoming in a physical sense, a material sense, the fundamental reality of scarcity in terms of our technologically augmented capability of providing for the earth, whereas all institutions had evolved within scarcity, zero sum. If one wins, another had to lose. That we may that we're transcending scarcity, that's one possibility, or some other kind of development that isn't generally understood or known. That we could have a pattern of a qualitative and revolutionary transformation of the operation of this spaceship Earth and the human condition in a way that would be empowering of all of the people, and ecologically so, but also could be so comprehensively appropriate to the evolution of universal mind as to be inclusive of those who are responsible for the historically inherited patterns, so that everyone could be involved synergistically and in terms of their own given reality in a pattern, so that there would be no enemy, that we could truly see that we're all in this together. And do you think maybe that might be the promise of the time in which we live, or is that reaching too far?
Well, perhaps the kind of things that you are saying up until 200 years ago, it's kind of useful conversation. But what I've been finding out is after 18th century, when the national sovereignty occurs and all this banking system and all this greed of some elite,
elite.
Yes, in terms of Anglo-American banking system and all that. Very small group, totally controlling the whole situation now.
The Bilderbergers, sometimes they're referred to.
Many of that round table, for example, involving quite a few British establishment, and America is simply taking the order from them, and people like Kissinger was totally trained before he was going to Harvard University, totally brainwashed and trained and planted in this part of the world. And when you start finding out all this, what he's done together with this people, Bilderberger and what the round table or whatever, it's just, I just couldn't believe my eyes, finding out all these things. And drug was particularly brought into this part of the world, 1968 to 1972, purposely. And such a hypocrisy going on, with having a type of road on this and wearing the suits and having Royal Institute of International blah, blah, blah. This is amazing. And the people say it is very dangerous. Even one word you uttered, your life is endangered. But I experienced eternal life. And knowing the world can be treated like this, someone has to stand up, and someone has to start informing American people and to the world. What America is having now is properly, America has its only constitution and voting power. All the other things are stripped completely without awareness of American public. This is very sad. And now I think they're trying to do it to Japan. Now they're trying to the Middle East. And step by step, you see how America was stripped away. I can even vividly write the total thing.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a very important period. All these things has to be known to the people, as well as spiritualism has to go together. That's the real renaissance of the political world.
Yes, indeed. Yes. I can understand exactly what you're saying. A time of birth, whether this is a time of a birth to a new way of being, I don't know if renaissance connotes rebirth, but we may be a nova naissance, or a new way of being in universe.
Again, renaissance.
Perhaps a renaissance is that, but that we're at a time of that kind of transformation that it is unprecedented in a certain sense. And we also come at a time when we have this incredible capability of rendering the habitat of the earth incapable of the continuation of our species. Rather like we've come through a gestation period, perhaps, and we're coming into a new relationship to universe.
Oh, yes.
But I would come back again to that. If that is the case, do you think it's possible that we could have a way of having everyone included in this, that it is a matter of consciousness raising to a new reality that's generally not accepted or understood because of the historical patterns? And if that is the case, is not there a role for the media, which is in a certain sense one step removed from immediate power, to provide a context where consciousness and these questions could be brought up, discussed by people who are in positions of ongoing power and the responsibilities that carry, to discuss an alternative vision than the one in which they are operating now? And doesn't it make the media all that much more, and particularly television, given the electronic world, all the more important? And
yes, particularly new agenda, starting from this October or so. I think that's the way we can create a new direction.
Very, very good. Well, I must say, and you would like to be able to have included in your activity sharing some of that perception via the electronic media with the wider world, so you'll be re-establishing your career, or your path, as it were, perhaps a better word, as a television personality in a world that is, I would submit, desperately seeking vision of an appropriate transformation. And you've contributed mightily to that, if I may, over the years, and in a pace-setting way. And I really want to thank you very much for all your work over the years. It's pace-setting work, and happy to have been able to share it and you, and introducing you to the television audience here, and wish you only the very, very best. And may we meet on the path down the line a bit as we pursue similar paths, if I may.
Right. Thank you very much.
Not at all. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Conversations in New York. It's your pleasure to have the perceptions in of Kaoru Nakamaru, who is a television personality and a singularly important person, I would submit, spiritually and on the physical plane, in terms of helping to move humanity toward a new and liberated condition that we all aspire to. Happy to present those. We invite you to tune in. We'll be coming back on Conversations again next week. That's it for this particular program. Kaoru, once again, thank you really very, very, very much indeed.
Thank you.
See you next time.
These waves all around us now. These waves all around us now. Radio waves. X-ray. Soft. 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 These waves all around us now. These waves